We're officially starting now. People coming in, come on in, grab some dinner. We do ask that you sign the thank you card there. Our dinner was donated by Rooted Family Health. So we're very grateful that they were able to donate food so that everyone can eat tonight, which is great. So enjoy, but just sign the thank you. On the back table, we have the PowerPoints, got some in Spanish and then in English. So have those and we'll go through. For those of you who have not met me before, my name's Lucinda Thelen, and who I am, I'm a retired special ed teacher. I taught in the Houston area, and then when I retired, I was with College Station ISD. And so additionally, I am a parent to an adult son that is autistic. And so I definitely have walked both sides of the road, going through the school part and then the parenting part as well. And so that's why this topic is really important to me. And I'm also going to say, because we put this on Facebook Live and record, I have a tendency to move around a lot. So just know when I'm up here moving and doing all this stuff, I'm really trying to stay focused and stay in the camera. So, because I'm used to going around and involving everyone. But friendship, I mean, if you think about it, I could probably ask every one of you in this room what friendship is, and you'd have a different definition. You know? Does anybody want to volunteer what they think friendship is? Is it just spending? Yes.
I would say a supportive connection.
Supportive connection. Very good. Very good. What do you think?
I think that friendship has to be like a passionate, how do I put this? Basically when both parties want to collaborate, hang out with each other, go to events, do stuff together, basically develop a connection.
Perfect. Very good.
And maybe even deeper than the ocean.
And it could be, but
We
it
don't
has
know.
to be, you hit a big point that we're going to talk about, because
Yes, of
both
course.
people have to want it.
Yes.
So we're
It has to
gonna
be
look at that
mutual.
one.
It has to be mutual.
Yes, it does
That's
have
all
to
from
be
me.
mutual.
Thank you.
And then there's different kinds of friendships, and we're going to look at all of that. So this is a very big subject, but we're going to try tonight to do some real practical things with it. Let's look at what it is, what kind of issues, if there are issues with your family member that might be having issues with friendships, either learning how to have them, how to keep them, or how to recognize when it's not really a friendship. So let's see if y'all's definitions matched with all of this. What is friendship? Two or more people who enjoy each other's company. Okay? That's very good. So it's not you by yourself. You can be friendly and friends with yourself, but it's better when you're with someone else there. But the big things, they trust, they understand, and respect and appreciate each other. And that's what we start seeing when we try to teach about friendship, because if these things are missing, then we're not having a true friend. Okay? How many times, you don't have to raise a hand, but I know I'm going to raise one, that you've met people and you thought, oh, we're friends, and then when you needed them, you weren't friends. I mean, most people have had that. It's real easy to buy into different things, but when push comes to shove, you know, the respect wasn't there. There wasn't this. So how do we teach that to our kids, to our family members? How do we teach that? If you're friends, you should look forward to being together, and you give to each other. And it's not in the same way. It's not level. I mean, how many of you have the friends that you go to and you know they're going to listen to you and not judge? So you have that. Then you have the one, oh man, I just want to have fun. And you have that kind of friend. So you have different kinds of friendships that go with this. But in both of them, in all of that, it still needs to be valued. So like, I know with one of my friends, I'm the listener. I'm the listener. And I'm okay with that. I don't judge, I don't say anything, and I listen. If she laughs, I laugh with her. If she cries, I cry with her. That's what we do. She's not who I turn to do those things. But I turn to her because, believe it or not, she's the fun one. And we go and do these other things. So we all have this. So it's not like this little straight line. And that's why it's so hard when we're, again, working with teaching someone or helping someone understand all of this. Right. The biggest thing is, it's so easy. I know with my son, I know with lots of students that I taught, I don't want to say interest level because that's not it. The amount of time that they could focus and handle and work on that friendship is like in little blocks. It's not all the time. They have to rest in between or figure things out, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just easier. I know when my son wanted to just go, oh, my friends, I see them when I play World of Warcraft. Okay, honey, what do they look like? How have they helped you? Well, they helped me kill this something. No, let's see, what are we doing here? How do you know who that really is? How do you know? And so we did all of that because that's what he wanted to disappear into that world. But I recognize that friendships are beneficial. We need them. It helps your mental health. It helps your physical health. It makes your quality of life better. And without it, I mean, there are negative things. And depression is a really big one. A really big one. And I know I'm stopping. Is it working now? Or are you just able to say, okay, thank you. All right. And so there's a whole lot of stress that goes with it. If you think you're having to face every single thing alone, you don't have someone that you can go to, okay? It's a lot. And so it also leads to job opportunities, networks. They can introduce you to someone else who might end up being the real friend. It can be protection, and as their social skills develop, I mean, they develop along with that friendship. So it's really, really, really important that we encourage that. And basically, all relationships are with friendship. At a job, at school, if you go to church or have outside activities, all of those things, friendship becomes very important with that, okay? So, I mean, y'all are getting the idea how important friendship is and all of that kind of stuff. And so, this is what we're going to look at tonight. Does your child know what makes a person a friend? Okay, and that might be something that if you have someone, if your family member can communicate that, they'll communicate in different ways. Is this a friend? Is this not a friend? And we'll talk about ways of pointing out or doing and learning from all of that. This one is a big one, because this is where I found a lot of my students and my son just bought right into it. Being friendly is not being a friend. Big, huge difference. Big, huge. And that's something we still work on to this day. Just to give you hope, I mean, my son, he wanted friends, but it was so overwhelming for him. It was hard. He didn't understand. He would do things that would make him mad, or he would decide, you're now my friend, and follow him. We had all of those things. So we had to start and work on all of these different things with that. I can say, yes, he's an adult, but he has real friends. He has friends that help him, that he can call if he would call. They initiate a lot, they support, and he actually has it. But it took years of work. Years of work. Okay. There's different levels or kinds of friends. That's a whole nother one. How many of you have a family member that if somebody says hi to them, they go, that's my friend? Yeah, Okay, well, we're going to look at that. And that behaviors and actions are different how you are around someone, what kind of friend that they are, if it's an acquaintance or if it's somebody that you know real well. We're going to talk about if they have trouble making friends, and then what to do if that person acts like a friend but actually isn't, and how to support your family member so that they know what to do and have actions to do what's necessary, even if it's ending that, quote, friendship. Okay, so this is what we're covering. So, first one, what is a friend? And I was so glad with Ty in the audience, because he said the biggest thing is that it can't be one way. It has to be two ways. All right? You have to, the other person has to want to be a friend too. You can't force someone to be a friend. So even if you, like I had friends that would bring their kids over by my son and say, oh, look, we can make them be friends. Okay, that was wonderful. And they could play by each other or different things. That didn't make them a friend because it wasn't both reaching out and wanting to be one. So how do you identify it? You often share something in common. So ways to define, that's like a little preview hint of like when you're trying to find friends, then you find things that you like to do or they like to do. So it goes with that. It has to be people you can trust and that you're comfortable with. All right? They're people you know and spend time with, and both have to agree. So start thinking about your lives and what examples and stuff that you're showing or what they're seeing. You know, some of your family members aren't going to learn or recognize just by watching your interactions. So we'll talk about how you can show it, but think about your own and your own things with this and how you, well, we'll go on, how you can teach it, but they have to know what it is first. You know, so when they bring up someone's name and you say, well, gosh, what do you both like? I don't know. Well, you know what? I think you might be an acquaintance. That's okay. That leads to other friendship. So it's identifying so that they know what they're working for. Friendship and friendly. Friendly is a way of acting. That's all it is. You've got people who will bring you dinner and they're being very friendly. That doesn't mean they're your friend. All right, you've got the people that are in the hallways or this or that at school that they're going to see that say hi to them or whatever. That doesn't mean that they're a friend. Think about when you're out in public and you know, checking out groceries or this or that, and somebody's being very friendly. And again, that doesn't mean that they're going to be. It needs to be a relationship, and that's something that you really need. Because what I found is my son's very literal, and a lot of the students I taught were, I would say something and just kind of say, oh yeah, that friend over there. I mean, I would just use that word knowing what I meant. But for him, that meant that was my friend. You know, and so I had to really go back and start looking at examples and what we were doing at home and things that we were saying and all this kind of stuff, you know, especially because if it was, I mean, how many have had this where you've had a family get together or this or that and you're friendly with everyone, but as soon as they leave, you're like, oh, man, I'm glad they're gone, you know? Well, who watches all of that? Who's watching what you're doing? And so those can be learning opportunities. All right. So how do you get them to understand going from friendly to friendship? You may have to really teach and point out on TV, in the real world, wherever, about the different kinds of friendships. You're going to have to really teach them. The youth activity that they're doing is going over different kind of friendships. They're actually doing some role playing and some different things. And so we'll talk about, you know, ways that you can show and do with your child. Some of them will need to have actual friendship skills taught to them. Okay? My son's idea of a conversation was a monologue about what he wanted to talk about. Oh, did you see that new thing in World of Warcraft and it's set up with this and it's done this and it's done this and that? And I'm like, you know, we had code words, you know, that meant, you know, quit the monologue. So he had to be taught that he would interact. He would only talk for the few seconds to say what he needed. Then he had to stop back. I mean, we had to practice this, where he would stop. We practiced with the cousins. They're good people to help out with that. And so he would stop because we'd get the signal, and then he would have to, a list of questions that he had memorized, then he would say something to them so that they would respond back and forth. None of that came natural to him. Does that kind of sound familiar to some of you? None of it came natural. So, I mean, we truly had to break it down and practice and come up with all of this and teach him those friendship skills. But it's really good because that's what helps them build as they get older and friendships get more complicated. It helps them build healthy relationships, okay? And learn how to set personal boundaries. And so those things are huge because that's what keeps them safe. That's what's going to keep them safe. So we're talking friendship, but all of that stuff leads to so many different things. Okay. So these are the levels of friendship. All right. Anybody? Well, you already have them up there. I was going to have people start guessing at what different levels were. But that first one, who wants to imitate what a friendly greeting is? Howdy. Yeah, howdy. Exactly. Exactly. You're friendly. You're saying hello, howdy, this or that. But it's to someone you don't know, you're not going to hang out with, you don't know any of this stuff. It's just a friendly greeting. Okay? It's just a friendly greeting. We do those all the time. How many of you have family members that misinterpret that and think, oh, my mom knows them? Yeah, that was a whole nother rude awakening of like, no, I really don't know them. I was just being friendly. Friendly. So, crazy. I have, well, I'll get to code words. Remind me about friendly when I get to that one. Okay, an acquaintance is someone that they have small discussions with, like a classroom group, this or that you hang out with for a short time. Okay? So we all have a lot of acquaintances that you might see, or this or that, or somebody you work next to, or this or that. Okay, so those are just acquaintances. Then you get in where I'm going, wow, you know, I like that person that I talk to at lunch when I'm working. I do. I think I'd like to get them to know more. That's when you start moving into what friendship is. That's when you start moving towards what friendship is. You're seeking them out and going, I think this is who I want to talk to. And then that's when it starts evolving. Because if they respond back, and that's the other thing you've got to teach them, is what happens if they don't respond back and don't want to be your friend. That'll come up here too. But that's the thing. It's like that's when you're starting to get to know someone and want to spend more time with them. And those are the things that, as if you're helping facilitate this, we'll look at ways as parents that you can kind of oversee and help and learn and do all of that with them. But the biggest thing, again, it comes down to that other person wants to be a friend with them. When all of that happens, you finally get to bonded or real friendship. Okay? Just think in your head. Today, how many acquaintances did you see or say hi to in your life? A lot? Yeah? How many that were kind of evolving maybe into a friendship? How many of those? How many spent time with a real friend today? A real friend. Yeah. But as I'm looking around, because I know everybody's not seeing what everybody, I mean, it's all different. Some days you're going to have more, some days this and that. But it's recognizing that those are all different things. Those are all different things, and that we have to teach it that way. Okay, so how do we teach it? And you got to use the same strategies that you use to teach other skills. And so it can be living out loud. Living out loud is one that I use and continue to use till this day. That means that when we're driving somewhere, I mean, and I'll still do it, especially, you know, I mean, my son's an adult, but he still will watch that I'll go up to someone and go, hey, yeah, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I hadn't seen you in a while, da-da-da. And then I'll talk afterwards and say, yeah, did you see how I was recreating or talking to someone? Because you know what? They're acquaintances that I see with this, or I really want to start being their friends. So I was asking them a lot of questions about what they were doing. And I live out loud. I mean, I say what's happening. Oh, TV. We use TV as a big one. With my son, Johnny Bravo, have y'all remember that show? Yeah. How not to be. That's not a friend, and the things that he would do and how he was. So we would watch that, and then it got where my son was finally able to point out things. Oh, he did that. They're not going to like him for that, you know. And so we did that. I would find all kinds of different situations, TV commercials. You know, there's so many different things that we see, or when we're out somewhere or driving, you know, whatever it was, and you'd see and you'd say, hey, does that look like a group of friends? Do they know each other? What do you think? Well, look at let's see, their body language. What are they doing? Oh, that one has his arm around this girl. What do you think that means? And she's not, you know, what do you think? And he'd go, well, maybe her shoulder itched. I said, you know what? And maybe it did. But they're both smiling, so does that mean that she's okay with him putting his arm around her? And he goes, oh, yeah, yes, that would be. All right? And so it's, you know, there's so many things that we walk through and see and process in our head that our family members don't have the ability to process all that in their head. They don't see. If they can't read body language, how are they supposed to get this other? Or if they don't have the boundaries. I mean, how many, oh, you have to hug everybody. Okay, so what message is that sending? You know, you're in a store and you go up to somebody you don't know and you hug them. Well, when you're 3 or 4, that might be one thing. When you're 20, what's going to happen? Yeah, and so it starts way, way, way back. And we, like I said, living out loud was something that we could do. My husband does it too, his dad. We just did it. Family gatherings, wherever. Role playing. We would act things out. You know, just goofy things about, you want to, oh gosh, especially when he became interested in wanting to ask somebody out on a date. That's a whole nother story. But we acted stuff out. We acted it out. And then we also talked about, what do you think would occur? What do you think? You're going to go up and say hi to this girl that you think is cute. And you may ask her her name. So we practiced that. But then we would have to go the step forward. If she does this, what does that mean? If she goes, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you. What does that mean? And we would just play it out and keep going on all those different things that could happen so that he could have an idea of what to expect. So stories, code words. Okay, I remember my thing now. Friend Lee, okay, the word Lee. His Uncle Steve's middle name is Lee. So I would say, that's a Steve, which means Lee. Friend Lee, not friend. Okay, we had a code word. And so it didn't embarrass him. I could say it where it was, you know, and he knew, oh, they're just being friendly. They're being friendly. So, videos, that's TV shows and all of that, and scripting, which is when you help them know what to say or how to respond, so that they're not just standing there going, I don't have a clue. It's more of what kind of things can you do. And I like the part at the bottom, true friendship is a plant of slow growth, because it really is. You will meet some people you bond with right away, but think over your lifespan, how many people that you just really bonded with real quick are still part of your life? Some of you may have some. Yeah. Yeah, I've got one from forever ago, you know, and it just, we hit it off when we first met, and we're still friends 30 some years later. She's the only one though. And it took work. It took work as we went through our changes in life, and that's a whole other thing we have to bring up. Friendship is very different, elementary, middle school, high school, and out. It all becomes very, very different. And that's why if you get the base skills down, then you can help them understand as society changes for them. So this is how we're looking at doing it. All right, so first, you've got to help them identify what qualities good friends have. Okay, my son knew that my good friend Debbie was one that I could trust. She was honest, and I could trust her. And so my living out loud was, wow, okay, I need somebody to tell me what I'm really, you know, am I really not doing this right, or this or that? I'm going to call my friend Debbie, because I know Debbie will tell me. And I lived out loud, and he knew that I could do that, that they would be reliable, understanding, and so that's what you pointed out in action. And you know, quite honestly, if you want to know the truth, how many of you, if you had some friend that was talking to you and they just said, you know, you are so honest. Thank you. Thank you for being my friend. All right? We can share and give that, and what an example that they're seeing. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I would do that. I gave compliments to friends in front of Chris so that he knew what things that I was looking at. And actually, it helped friendships. It helped friendships. Okay. So I like the little picture on there. I like my friend because she's kind. Because that is something that we need to have. That's the other, because we'll talk about it, because it goes equally when you see somebody not being kind, that you're able to live out loud and say, whoa, that's not being a friend. They just told him to be quiet, but they said it in a bad way, you know? Or they did this. Look, they're not even looking at him when they're talking to him. Wow, that's not very good at all. You need to be looking at who you're talking to, not eye to eye, but at least facing them, not facing the back wall. You know, and so those are all the things, living out loud or practicing or doing all of those things so that you're pointing it out. Okay, these are some other things that show on there. There's lots of papers, there's lots of stuff. You can Google, depending upon like what level of your family member is, like do they need examples, this and that. You can just put on qualities of a good teenage friend, or qualities of this. And this is stuff that I would print out and show. My son would see all of those. We had reminders. We used them. They were like social stories. This is what we're doing. How to be a good friend. Because that's the other part. I mean, my son had to be taught all of those friendship skills. All right? I mean, all of them. From how to introduce himself, to pay attention to what the other person is saying. And boy, was it hard at the beginning, because it doesn't come natural at all. Does that sound familiar to some of you? Yeah, it just doesn't come natural. And so that's what, if we have picture reminders, word reminders, this and that kind of stuff that we're looking for. And recognizing again that it's a two-way street, what it is that we're doing. And so, you know, wow, they're really listening to you. This is great. Okay, these are all the different things that we go. And so, and again, because I can't tell you how many times my son reached out when he finally did and was rejected. Okay, it happens. Have any of y'all been rejected by somebody who didn't want to be your friend? Okay, we've all survived. They'll survive. You just have to learn those coping skills. And it's hard when they have their hopes built up. Oh, I think they're so nice and they're doing this, and then it's not a two-way street. But that's okay, because you know what? They can still be your acquaintance, and you can say hi. And you can have short conversations with them about what you want. It just won't be a full bonded friendship, and you know what? That's okay, because we need a lot of those acquaintances too. Okay, and so putting that more positive spin on it helps take away some of the hurt, not all of it, but we can't wrap them in cotton and have them never be hurt. And that's part of life, unfortunately. We just have to be the safety net to help with that. Oops, I don't know what I just did. There we go. So teaching them, you teach them ways that they want to be. And so here's how to make a new friend. Smile. Ask them how they're doing. See something that they both like. So if they're on the playground and they both like the swings, they can go up and say, I like the swings too. Okay? They can be friendly. They can be very nice. Look for things that you have in common. We called this, and actually it started as, my son called it the bumper sticker game, because we used to have to do a drive. He was very depressed, didn't have friends. This is middle school age. We're having lots of emotional issues, lots of different things. So it was suggested that we get him in martial arts, like a structured taekwondo, because it's structured. You know what you're doing. You do the same routine. He's with peers, but it's all like regimented, where it can be practiced and done. The place that I found was the wife of the guy that was running it was actually a school, an LSSP, a licensed school psychologist. So I spoke with her, and she goes, oh no, we'll be fine. You know, you can come and whatever. Well, it was over an hour away. So 2 to 3 times a week after school, we drove. And we drove there, but the positives he got out of it, where he felt like he was meeting someone and learning in the friendship, it was definitely worth it. But I also decided, well, if we cut this hour in the car, and I don't want to be cursing or doing different things during this drive in Houston, and so I thought, what can we do? So we started figuring out how we would talk to the people in the cars going by us, by their bumper stickers, by what was on their car, what was the color. Man, there's some really interesting things out there. You know, they'd have a sticker of a cartoon, or, you know, Mickey Mouse, or all the little kids in a row. What do you think their family is like? What would you want to ask them? What would we do this? And so we called it bumper sticker conversations, and that's what we did. We would practice, and we would laugh, and he was practicing, but it was a game. All right? Because that's what I keep saying, teaching, but quite honestly, you don't want to sit down with like a lesson and a piece of paper. It's just part of real life. It's just you're living it, or you're going through these things. And so, yeah, we did the bumper sticker things. And then as he got older, think about it. I can look in here, and we actually wear bumper stickers. We have things on our shirts that would show an interest, right? If you have certain jewelry that would show an interest, something in common. Okay, he wears glasses, we got this, so we can have glasses in common. If somebody's tall, this and that. I mean, but we all wear those. Or if you're in an office, what can you look at? Somebody's desk. What are they going to have? What are their bumper stickers? They might have a picture of someone. They might have a picture from a vacation, all kinds of different things. So it's teaching them to see those, because those are going to be crucial when they're trying to reach out to meet a friend. Okay? Because they want to see it, see if they have something in common with them. And then questions like, you know, how are you? Oh, Tom and Jerry. I really like Tom and Jerry. She has a Tom and Jerry shirt on. Did you watch cartoons a lot with that? You know? And so that becomes how we start the conversation. And again, that had to be taught. We practiced this in my classroom. I can't even tell you, with all the students that I had and through Special Olympics and all these different things. We would just practice it. Because I lived out loud around all of them too. You know, hey, look at this person. They have on this kind of shirt. Isn't that really cool? What do you think that means? What do you think that makes them like? What would you ask them? And so it becomes more natural. It really does. And so how to make a new friend, doing that. And then the signs that someone doesn't want to be your friend. Okay, so we've got those with the faces. You know, there's a lot of different things that, you know, they can move away from you. They don't respond. And those are things you have to teach too. You have to teach those as well. All right. Okay, actions to encourage friendships. Be the inviter. All right, Chris he would speak a whole lot, and just so that I'm throwing this out here, yes, my son is an adult, but I went over this. He knows every single thing that I'm sharing tonight. He knows I'm sharing, because this is his life and his stuff, and if there was something he didn't want me to share, I wouldn't be sharing it. So just know that. It's not I'm up here going, oh, I'm going to tell you all kinds of stuff about, you know, my son, because he's not here and I can do it. But no, he's very aware of all of that. But being the inviter, that's what I would do. It would be, okay, he's talked about this person in his class. Well, you know, what could they do, like maybe after school, or, you know, how do we do this where we invite, or, you know, a playground date, or, not date, playground, what do you?
Play date.
Play date, thank you. I know there was date in there somewhere. You know, a play date. How do we set this up, you know? And like I said, when he was younger, we used his cousins a lot, because they understood how he was and everything, and, you know, they were fine, you know, and that's when we got to the end when show gratitude, because I'd make sure that cousins knew, thank you for spending this time and helping, and yes, you need to do it because it's all family and everything, but still, sometimes my son was very difficult, you know, and so I'm very appreciative of this. Planning fun activities where, you know, he would bring different things the teachers would know that they could play with during recess, or we would plan fun things, the neighborhood park. You know, there was just different things that we could do. Like I would bring a game of throwing stuff, and if other kids were playing, and if they showed an interest, we'd just say, come on and join us. You know, so it became where we were being the welcoming so that they want to do that. Again, the random act of kindness, you know, where you give that compliment, or, you know, I mean, think about what kids like to hear that too. Wow, you were so kind. Thank you. This was really great. You know, all of those different things. And then there can be regular outings. I know we tried Boy Scouts, that's a whole nother story. But while he was in Boy Scouts for that short time period, we would do other outings, like meeting at a park that had these little fishing things by it, you know. We would go, say, try to think of some of the different, because we didn't have like lots of money. We're not talking about throwing a big party, you know, so instead, what other kind of little activities that you can do so that you can have people there and arrange them. Like, you know, every Friday after school, we're going to be doing this if anybody wants to stop by, kind of thing. And so we would set that up with the neighborhood, the kids on the street, and so on. And it was like they always knew on Friday afternoons that Chris would be out and there would be toys and the basketball goal and the different things, so come play, you know? And even though it might have been parallel play, meaning Chris is doing one thing and they're doing something else, it's okay. That's what they were comfortable with at that point. You can't force it to happen. You cannot force it to happen. All right? And so that's what we would do. And it would be, this is really cool. Or we'd hide stuff. You know, I'd have little snack bags and we'd hide them all in the front yard and by the side by the fence. And it's like, okay, who wants to go find the snacks? And they'd go, the neighborhood kids, and they'd do it. But you have to eat them here. You know, so we'd sit on the driveway and eat them all together. And so we created those kind of activities so that it would encourage, and he could see that they're okay, you know, and you could watch and we could talk about it later, whether, you know, well, that person just ate the snack and then ran. Okay, do you think was that friendly? Well, they said hi and they said thank you, so that was friendly. But are they, that's like, you know, Uncle Steve. Oh, friendly, not a friend. Okay, yeah, exactly. And so those are all different things that you can do to encourage those. And then this is again a little chart that I thought it was really good because it has ideas of where you can meet people, the different things, how to get started. And like I said, you know, that hour drive one way, when he was in Taekwondo, that was life-changing. He was in a supportive environment and able to interact with rules so he understood what to do. And he gained more that year. He still has, okay? He still has the board he broke. He actually broke a board. He was so proud. He still has that board on his dresser. There is a bookcase, and he still has the board sitting up there. I mean, that was from, 20 years ago, and it doesn't matter, because if you say, wow, what is that? I broke the board. And you know what? They clapped for me. He remembers. It's so crucial. And so, yeah, I'd do that drive again and learn about bumper stickers and conversations and all kinds of stuff. So it was really good. So find what the interest is. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Boy Scouts didn't work for us. I don't know what else to say. It just didn't. It could have been the people. It could have just been that there was some time not real structured. All of that didn't really work. We tried different sports. Yeah, well, that didn't work. As he would tell you now, he's an avid indoorsman. He's not into being outside. That sweat stuff, yeah, that's not good. So, but what we did find? We found his Warhammer, where they would put figures together and roll the dice and all that. You're smiling, you know exactly what I mean. Which, again, it's rules. Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! What about Pokemon Go? That's one now, because you're going to see people doing all that on the phone. Hey, did you just get that or something? I don't understand all the Pokemon Go stuff. How did he meet his friends now? Dungeons and Dragons. Okay? And his memory, they love it because he remembers all the side things and this and that and all of this. And it's a language I don't even speak. All right? But he found friends that speak that language. And where it started is we're just going to get together. I mean, he now will go just over to their house just to be. They don't even have to play it. And I'm just going, oh my gosh. So that's what you've got to find. And it takes time and trying. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's okay. There's a lot of different things out there that they can try and do. From art to all kinds of dance. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do depending upon what's structured. And this community is great with that. It really is. So, it's out there. It really is out there. Okay, additional things to know. There has to be the boundaries, people you've just met, because this is something, and I share this story because my son did this without even knowing. He worked with me, he was a volunteer. That was a whole other thing, volunteering with things is good. I worked for the Audubon Society during the summer. This again was in the Houston area, and we ran nature camps. And so it was a 17-acre little sanctuary thing. And we would learn about what the animals are and spiders and how many joints they have in their, I mean, it was all this kind of fun stuff. Y'all may not think it's so fun, but we thought it was real fun at the time. Okay, so he went through the camp, and then what happened is that they let the older, as they got older and no longer of the age of camp, we would have them come as volunteers to help. So they could set stuff up or lead through the trail, things were all settled with that. So I had him do it. Sometimes it worked real well, sometimes it didn't. But there was another volunteer, a young lady, and so she was talking to him. Well, he was trying to figure it out, and she was the one who initiated the conversation, and she kept it going. So he followed her. He followed her. And he followed her and was talking with her. And so then she went in the bathroom. So he stood outside the door and talked to her. And she came out and all of this, and then went home. She was staying with her grandmother and said, "This weird kid followed me everywhere." Yeah. But in his world, she talked to him, so it was okay. So that's when I realized we needed to set up strong boundaries of all of this. If you've just met somebody, you're saying hello, you can shake hands, but you're not going to follow or do any of that. Acquaintances, again, waving, hello, high fives, and all of that. If it's a friend, you can do a shoulder hug. You can do a shoulder hug. That doesn't mean you run up and grab them, because that's fine when you're itty bitty. But how long does it take your family member to learn a skill and to learn a rule? Okay, if it takes 4 or 5 years, it's not the same as when they're 7 as when they're 11 or 15. And so it's preparing them for that. So shoulder hugs are good. You can hold hands. I mean, it just kind of depends if you're like, hey, come on, let's go do this kind of thing. So those are all kind of things. And then again, it talks about like who you can do these things with. Like if you're at the doctor, you're not going to be the same way as you're going to be at a church group or with your family or this or that. And so this gets into the physical side, the touch side of it, because you really have to watch with that. That's the other, because it's so hard because when they're little and you encourage all the hugs and go give them a kiss and this and that. But truly what happens when they get older? Because I know with some students I taught, my son's not a physical touching person, but lots of the students I taught, lots and lots, if all of a sudden they didn't hug somebody anymore, that meant they didn't like them. And that's not accurate. Okay, you can go up to a classmate when you're in 2nd grade and give them a hug after they did something, but that's a whole different thing if they're a sophomore in high school. A whole different thing. And so, unfortunately in this world, that's another thing. I know when we had the TV on, or I would find videos, that we would talk about that. Oh, nobody would really go up and do that. They just met each other. That's not appropriate. Ew. Because you think about what they see. They see people who just meet each other and then they're all kissing and everything. Well, that's not real life. Or it shouldn't be. And so it's showing that that's TV, that's fiction, that's a video. In real life, that's not what it's going to be. Let's look at this. So it's real important, again, with the physical to know that if you just met somebody, you don't run up and grab them. All right? So, again, it takes time. You can't force somebody onto your timetable. okay? I know that, Chris liked this kid. He wanted to play with them. He lived 2 streets over from us. And he got that where they would play games and do different things, which was all fine. But I mean, Chris would have been okay with starting it right away. And then the other kid was like, no, it took time. And then vice versa. Because there was kids who, Chris especially, Warhammer, and they were at, I'm trying to remember Magic the Gathering. They were playing Magic the Gathering at school. And boy, there was this other kid who wanted to have access, quite honestly, to all of Chris's cards and do some different things. Magic anyway. And so, I know some people know what that game is. And so, it was like, wait a minute here, because that guy wanted to, I'll come over to your house, we'll do this, we'll do that. It's like, whoa, wait a minute here, and Chris was like, I don't even know his last name, Mom. Yeah, well, maybe we aren't going to invite him to the house, but you know what? You can do stuff in the library, because that was a safe place. Until we, again, found out, or he was able to see, he just wants my cards. He wants my cards. Okay? So does that mean he's friendly? Well, he's friendly if he wants my cards. He's like Uncle Steve. Friendly. I said, but is he a friend? I don't think so. Because it's not me. He just wants the cards. That took a full school year. A full school year. It's a journey. But you know what? When I look at my son with these friends now, and I know that if something happened to me, he has somebody who's going to support him. It's worth every single moment of work. Every single one. So, the other thing, because friendships can change, and so it gets a little tricky, and so that's what sometimes friendships can become unhealthy. All right? I remember, growing up, I was into sports. That's what I wanted to do. And so my best friend, Diane, discovered boys. And that's fine. I thought boys were okay, as long as I could beat them in basketball. But her world started wrapping around that. And our friendship totally changed. So this is somebody who I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours with, and all of a sudden, we're like this. But you know what? That's a natural part of this world and about friendships. Okay? Think of somebody in your life that you've done that. You've just kind of moved in different directions. And so that's going to happen to them as well. And then especially when you start trying to figure out if it's a healthy or an unhealthy friendship. So this one I really liked because we did, our code words again. We compared this to healthy food and not so healthy food, okay? And one makes you feel good and the other one makes you feel bad. So there was stuff that would upset Chris's stomach if he ate it, different things. I'm trying to remember, he liked salads. And so even though it's healthy or this or that, if it made him feel bad, we would say that's kind of like a salad friend, And so we would equate it so he would understand that it was, it's something that's not, if that friendship doesn't make you feel good, then that's not healthy, and that isn't a real friendship. So, this is science to have them look. Does that person lie to you? Okay. Do they try to make you do something that you don't want to? Okay, we've all had that happen. Telling you things that you can't do. No, you can't do that here. No, you can't. Bossing, all of that bossing stuff. Are they mean to you? It's okay to have a nickname for you, but when it's a mean nickname, that's not okay. Chris finally got the nickname thing because he said in high school he had to eat the same meal every lunch. I don't know if that sounds familiar to some people. So he would always get the egg rolls at lunch. Didn't matter what else was there. And so one of the kids said, you know, you're like an egg roll in a hamburger, you know, factory. And so he just became egg roll. And so he saw that as a thing of, you know, which started as a kind of picking on him thing, but then it turned into more of a joke and the different stuff, and it ended up being okay. So he was okay with that one. And so, you know, but if they're not nice to you, you know, if they're not going to share, they're not doing all of this stuff, you need to look for those signs. There's some more little things at the bottom that tell you, I'm trying to hurry so we can get some question time and everything, because here's the other. Because this one, ask them if they do these things. Do they get in your personal space? Are they bossy or rude to others? Do they only want to do what they want to do? Are they poor sports? Do they argue? Do they have to win every single time that you play a game? Okay, well, that could have been me. So, was a little aggressive with that. Mean words, don't share. Do they hit you? Do they yell? Do they grab things? Disrespecting, all of those different things, you know? Those are things to watch for. You can ask them if they've done those kind of things. And then these are things for you as family members to look at. Do they seem upset after they've been with them? Have they ever been physically hurt by a friend? Okay. Has your child made reference to any name calling or teasing? Do they say, oh, they said I did this or this or that? You know, they'll talk about it. Do they seem under pressure when they're with them? Do they lend them money? Okay, and not get paid back? Now with phones or different things, are they asking to use the phone? Do they do different other things? Do they want you to take photographs? That was one of my just heartbreaking things. As a young man that I taught was so excited they had these friends and they were going to get together after school, and he was so excited. And instead, they had him do really awful things and took pictures and spread the pictures everywhere. Yeah, heartbreaking. And so you want to protect them from that. You know, if you're not comfortable and if they don't want to do it, you've got to teach them to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Even if it means losing that, quote, friendship. You know, do they damage things? Do they bring other people around that are not there? You know, are they doing things that are being encouraged to do things that are against the law? Come on, you know you really want that at that store. Let's just go grab it. If you want to be my friend, you're going to do this. Chris knows that one. If you want to be my friend, that means right there immediately they are not wanting to be your friend. But it's hard because when they're caught up in that, and that's who they want to be with. So again, it's you looking for signs for things so that you can talk to them and say, how is this going? Or watch, just to be aware and watch. So how to intervene? Encourage them to put space between them and the friend. And I'm jumping down to, I think it might be on the next slide, but I let my son use me as the excuse. Mom says I can't come over anymore because I have to do this in the house first. Okay? I don't care if I'm the bad guy. I don't care. So I would give him that out, if that makes sense. No, I cannot bring those cards to school anymore because Mom says I was losing them or this or that. I love being a bad guy. Okay? So that's what we would do is, you know, he knew he could use me as the out. And so, again, you know, reinforce that an unhealthy friend is what causes the stress and pain. Maybe you can't sleep, or it makes you cry, or you hurt. Well, you know what? You don't have to stay friends with them. And so, but it's hard. It's really hard because it takes some time to build another relationship or any of this. So it's mainly supporting them through all of that. Invite other people over. Try new activities. There's all these other different things that you can do to support them to help build that gap between them and the one that is the unhealthy friendship. Okay? And eventually, they will move towards someone else. They really will. You know, but it's just trying to help them through that process. And then they need to know the friendship's end. And it could be the other person that's ending the friendship for them. You know, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Okay. Yes, that's going to hurt. Yes, that's sad. You know, we'll work on it. Come on, Chris, it's okay. Let's go do something really fun. And then we'll figure out something else that we're going to do. But, you know, if they don't want to be a friend with you, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And so it can be ended by either one. But you have to accept the decision. You can't force anyone to be your friend. And keep bothering them, following them, whatever. And then, again, if they're the ones ending it, feel free. My parents won't let me. But they knew my husband was nicer, so he used mom a lot on that one. His dad. Dad would say, oh, yeah, whatever. So, yeah, you let him use you as an excuse. And we scripted that. We practiced it. Chris, you don't want to do that? You know? Okay, what are you going to say to him? And then I would actually set some situations up where, you know, I'd ask the cousin to say, tell him that you want him to, you know, get in this closet and get some stuff down that he knew he wasn't supposed to. Oh, come on. You know, and Chris would, you know, at first, sometimes he would, but then it was like, okay, what about this? What do we need to do? And then it became the learning thing where he'd say, are you kidding me? You know your Aunt Lucinda. You think she's gonna do that? You know how mom is. I'm not gonna do that. It's just because if he didn't know how to respond, he would use me as the excuse. And again, I'm okay with that. I think he still does it today, quite honestly. I know he does, because I know the D&D crew. So I know he will say, oh no, my mother would, yeah, okay. So, but just know that it's priceless when you see that, when you actually see them get a friend. That was my whole thing. And friendship definitions, like I said, are different, you know. I didn't have problems really making friends growing up. I did what I did and had people I did stuff with and this and that and everything. So for me, it was like this foreign thing. How do I teach that? Because it's just this thing. And then I was sad, very sad. The story that Chris tells is he got involved in theater in high school, and he did the lighting because it's techie and whatever. Okay, so he's doing the lighting. And they actually were up for a Tom Tune Award in Houston for a musical. And the lighting was nominated for one of the best in the greater Houston area. And my son Chris was the lighting. That's what he did. I mean, I think with his autism and how he saw, he did it. So we had to go down to the hobby center. And so these are people who he considered his friends, okay? He would not ride with them. Because the bus was coming later, but if you were nominated, you had to be down there early. So most of them, their high school, they were driving down there on their own. And so Chris was like, no, I cannot ride with them. So I said, do you want me to take you? And he said, yes. So I took him down there. And so we're sitting there, and they're talking to him and doing all of this stuff. And they went through what happens for the people who were nominated and where they needed to sit and blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is all great. Everything's great. And then they go, okay, let's go out to eat. Where do we want to go? Oh, Hard Rock Cafe. Yeah, this will do this. Okay, bye, Chris. See you later. And they took off and left him standing next to me. I was devastated. Devastated. I said, okay, Chris, what do you want to do? And he said, oh, we can just get a sandwich here. I need to kind of get used to this place. And I said, okay, that's fine. We got a sandwich, and then I finally just said, Chris, didn't that bother you? And he said, what? And I said, they just went off to dinner. He goes, no, that means it only bothers you, Mom. He goes, that means that they know that I don't like crowded, loud places. No, it only bothers you. And I was like, okay, step back, Mom. Step back, Mom. Because I was putting my wants, my needs. What they did totally met his need. They were friends with him. Not just friendly, they were friends with him. And they did understand how stressful that would have been for him. And here I was his mom, projecting, going, oh my gosh, he's actually going to be with other people and do this. No. Totally changed my whole mindset. We always talk about that. It only bothers you. Okay? So get your expectations off, your dreams off, because it's their life. It's their life. We just have to support them through that. And now, like I said, I see the happy ending, you know, and it's wonderful. Took till he's, I don't want to say how old he is because then they'll start guessing how old I am, but he's in his 30s. So anyway, I like this at the end. Sometimes you think, what is a friend? And then we say, friend is someone to share the last cookie with, okay? And so that makes it really concrete because my son would not share a cookie with anyone. And so if it's somebody he really would share it with, then that's a good sign that it's a friend. So anyway, I meant to stop about 10 minutes before, but it's a lot to cover. But are there any questions or comments or, you know, anything that really stood out or you're like, whoa, you know, how did that work or anything? It can happen.
There's a comment online that says, thank you for this wonderful information. I can't wait to try the bumper sticker game. Good. The bumper sticker game's fun.
It really is. And it's so funny because we still, I took it into my classroom and I'd have other teachers come in with shirts or things. So what would you ask them? How would you start a conversation? You know, and so then they would learn to pick up those little cues and different things. Because we really do display a lot about what we like and don't like, you know, without even thinking about it, but it really helps other people. So good, the bumper sticker game lives on. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to be around, and so thank you all very, very much, and I wish you a lot of future friendships. And you know what? This could have impacted you thinking about some people that you know. Are they really my friend, or are they like Uncle Steve and just friendly? So, so now we'll have that code word. So, thank you very much. And make sure you sign the thank you card. And I don't remember what the topic is for next month because I'm trying to I'm one day at a time. This past time,
email them.
We'll send that out in the email. And also the email that talked about this, we just had in the beginning of February, the Brazos Valley Disability Resource Fair. If you weren't able to come to that, there's all kinds of information. There's a link where you can get the guide. So if you're looking for activities to get them involved in, look at that guide and look at the different things because there's a lot of information in there as well. So, all right. Thank y'all very, very much. Thank you.